Good. It's good.
How's everyone doing? Oh my God, we're finally back.
Yay!
We're back. And we're black.
For the first time. Black.
I just had to do it because it's Black History Month.
Most of us.
We're back and I'm black. So is Issa.
Yes!
We just found out. She got like 2%.
No, give me more than that.
Plus
It's definitely more than that. It's definitely more
Every
than 2%.
time I'm like scrolling on like IG, I see this post like I'm blackity black, 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 black. I'm like, yeah, this is what it's about. That's what it's about.
I'm just so excited to have us back at the table because it's been so long. So it's our first one, back in semester. It's my last semester. I'm gonna try not to cry.
About to be outie.
I'm about to be out of here. You about to be out of here too?
I'm about to be outie. Yes. And I'm excited to be here for the first time. Like, I love music, I love the culture, and R.P. Kobe Bryant, right?
R.I.P.
Oh
Kobe.
man, that's a tough way to
I
start.
mean, it started like
It's gonna be really extremely awkward to do, but what is your name, sir?
Oh, my bad. My name is Chad Anthony Sloss. I'm the guest, right?
Yes, you're a guest.
I know, but you're not forever family. You're
What does
forever
that
part of the
mean?
GTT family.
But
Oh,
he
I'm
is
forever family now. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're in the green table
That's
talks.
so warm. I feel hugged. I feel like
You're
that
hugged.
emoji with like the hearts in his face and stuff like that. Yeah.
I feel like we're on the circle. Heart swirl emoji sent.
Okay, I can rock with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, back. You love music, you love rap.
Yeah,
R.I.P. Kobe.
yeah, I started music. I love Kobe, but like music is a huge part of my life. So like anytime during the day I wake up, I'm listening to music. I'm in the shower, I'm listening to music. I'm driving, I'm listening to music.
You sing music?
No, I don't. But I did used to be in a rap group in third grade.
I was just gonna
No
say,
way.
you do rap.
Third grade.
Third grade.
What
I
were
was
you
the best
rapping
rapper
about in
alive.
third grade?
I don't know, probably like video games or something.
Juice boxes in your
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
No, the hot Cheetos and Takis.
Oh my gosh.
No.
That wasn't.
That Takis wasn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on those
Hot
every
Cheetos.
time.
Or they're younger.
Those are for me. My third grade teacher actually told me that like I had great bars, but I couldn't stay on beat at all. That was like the only feedback I've ever got from my rap career. So
It's crazy because like people just automatically assume that all black people have to have rhythm.
yeah,
Oh,
You know,
no,
like-
that's not true.
Like they
Well,
assume
Latino
like
people too, but that's not real. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have rhythm, honey, don't do
just
it.
don't do it.
Don't do
And like it's the same thing. Like we were
Just
talking
don't.
about R.I.P. Kobe. Like people just assume like black people gotta play basketball.
Yeah,
that's true.
no.
I don't know how many times I get like, yo, you play basketball?
Especially
like, no,
because
I
I'm
play
tall.
video games. I literally told him, no, I play video
Do you
games.
play basketball in video
But
I
games?
do play basketball video
So you
games.
do play basketball.
Technically.
Just digital
Video games.
Just digitally, exactly.
Yeah,
That's something.
they
Are
make
you
the
good?
assumption.
I'm pretty good at video games. Like,
To see.
I try to stay humble, but I'm the greatest 2K player alive. Like, in the world.
I mean, you know how many black men I've heard say that?
They're not me.
Kendall's raising his hand over there.
Are you?
I don't play with Golden State.
Oh, okay. Well, I
I'm
play
just
with
saying.
any team,
Okay.
and I win.
Every time.
Not every time, but for the sake of green table talks, it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot.
Gotta keep it real at the table now.
Yeah.
Yeah, honesty, 100%.
It's crazy because like video games has become a huge part of like culture as well. Too.
Yeah, it has. Actually, my line sister, her husband is on Twitch and he gets sponsored and he goes to the ESPN. Like they flew him out to LA during All-Star weekend.
Big
And he
business.
was like talking and all that stuff. I'm like, I didn't even realize that this was so huge. And they got all kinds of things sponsored. Like he got the free those candid braces things
Yeah.
for free. So just do a little video
I'm gonna
every
start
week.
playing video games.
Yeah, I mean, he gets all
Yeah.
kinds of sponsorships just because he's on there playing games and people follow him. Like,
There was a 13-year-old that played in the Fortnite championships. And
Yes.
He got like 6 million.
yeah, he beat everybody.
What am I
it was
doing?
crazy.
And my mom was telling me to stop playing. We would have all been eating.
You know?
And so for the sake of GTT, would you like to introduce yourselves too?
Oh,
I know.
At this point, y'all, my name is Priska. Didn't change from last semester, you know. Happy to be here.
Isatis Piñero, also happy to be here.
Jesse Drummond.
And Kendall Michelle. I'm also happy to be here.
Yeah.
As you can see at the table, we literally have no structure, but that's the structure that we chose to go with. No structure, just free structure.
Organic is always best.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Comes
when
to
we're
food,
talking,
conversation, all of it.
right, because when we're talking about like our roots and our culture, like a lot of the things that were taken from us you know, and then like they institutionalized us and then kind of put us in a box.
Yeah,
It's like, you know,
true.
I don't want to be in the box anymore, especially not in February when I'm trying to be blackity black for 29 days this year.
Day.
I'm trying to
Get
be my
extra day.
kind of black, yo. I was born in Jamaica, so I got really disconnected from those roots when I was like 4, because I came to the United States, I got institutionalized and stuff like that. But I think I found, like, as I've gotten older, I think the early 20s are a connection or like a relearning of who you are.
Yeah.
I've gotten so much more connected with like Jamaican culture, Jamaican music,
Food.
the food.
The food.
I don't know if anyone else has experienced that.
Yes.
Of course.
That was crazy to me.
100%.
Like, I love it.
Well, I think our college years are the years that we get to explore our own identities at
Yeah.
any point in time. So, you know, we grow up, whether that be, you know, I grew up in Miami, or if you grow up in Fort Lauderdale, or if you grow up here in Southwest Florida, like your upbringing, or if you're from out of state, like in school you're told what to do, how to act, what to wear, you know, what to eat, all these things, and you go home with your friends and, you know, it's just what they have. And sometimes it's not people like you. And
Right.
so you're just like, oh, okay, this is fine. But then you get to college and it's like you're away from what you've known for the past 13 years plus. And you have to like figure out who you are, who you want to be, where you come from. And I think that is beautiful, but also scary.
It is, yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of rift when you're trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And, you know, I can speak for myself. When I was in school, I tried assimilating, and I was just like, this is just not feeling.
Yeah.
Like, this feeling is not good. Like, this is not me. And then, you know, I went on that journey in my early 20s, and I'm like, and now I'm just like, Latina power, let's go. Like, I'm 100%, like, I'm super proud of my roots. I'm super proud. And I was born in Puerto Rico. I wasn't raised in Puerto Rico, but people think I was because of how proud I am to be Puerto Rican. And I think that just goes to show, like, over time, you get to appreciate your roots and your heritage and your background. And that's extremely important. And not forget where we came from and our ancestors and paying homage to them.
And I'd also like to contribute that sometimes tragedy, you know, brings you back to your roots
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. Because I was like 17, and like when the earthquake happened in Haiti, I was like, my country was almost gone.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I need the time now to kind of figure out, what does Haiti mean to me? Like, what is the land of Haiti? Since then, been going to Haiti like 3 times a year. You know, not necessarily for family. Like, there's still a lot of family that I haven't met in Haiti, but just like, I want to know the
Connect.
people. Like, I want to know where I come from, because I grew up in Naples, Florida. Goes without saying, like, you didn't find too many people that looked like me, period.
True,
You
yeah.
know, not just Haitian, you know, not just the Jamaicans, like black people.
Yeah.
So for me, like, you know, I was always the Oreo because I was the black girl that talked like a white girl, you know, because I was intellectual. People used to tell me that I sounded white. You know, people threw the basketball at me, so I did it for a little bit because I was like, I'm black and I'm tall,
All right.
so I have to play some basketball at
You
some
don't have
point.
to, but you
No,
felt
but
like you
people,
had to.
yeah, but people made me feel that way.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I was just like, no more of that, and like, figured out that I really love music. I love my compa. I love my Haitian music. I love my Haitian food, and you know, like, I'm extremely beyond proud to be Haitian. You know, so
But it's dope that you get to like relearn that.
yeah.
I feel like the second time you fall in love is even better than the first time, because like the first time you were kind of like
Thanks.
told to fall in love. You know what I'm saying?
Damn,
You
we
got
just got
me.
deep.
For real, like the first time you were told you're supposed to like this and this and this.
Yeah.
I thought I related to like some people leave the church and then they go back to that church, and that second time is always a stronger faith than the first time because they made that decision themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like
And also
same
the
thing
experience is so much different. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like when people leave and they come back, it's just like they needed it that time. Like, I'm going back because I need it. It's not
Exactly.
just a want, you know? I think anyone growing up, you know, no one wants to go around life thinking, you know, I don't know who I am. That's cool. That's fine.
No.
I think everybody has like that fundamental need inside of them to want to know who they are.
Mhm.
But then you get to a point and you're like, I need to know who I am. Like, my identity's at stake.
Yeah, in
You
order
know?
to like maneuver through
Right,
this whole
through
like
life.
life journey, like I need to have a set identity.
Yeah,
Because
and one that I
otherwise
know
you're
for
just drifting.
myself, and not one that was created for me,
Yes,
but the
but-
one that I naturally am since birth.
Yeah,
You know.
because socialization is a hell of a drug.
Mm.
Crazy.
Okay, with the bars.
Right.
So, Chad, you were saying that music is like your thing, right? So you listen to it in the shower, or you're driving, pretty much at any point in time of the day, you are listening to music.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be listening to probably lectures, right?
Yeah.
So what is your go-to music?
Oh man, it's usually like a blend between like some really socially conscious rap and some reggae.
Okay.
So what are you listening to now? What were you
Like
listening
if,
to on
yeah,
your way
like I was
here?
just gonna
I
say.
was just on my way here. There's a song named Church by Coda the Friend. Again, it's like socially conscious rap, but it's like good vibes. Yo. Like I really believe like music has an impact on like your mood and stuff like that. And if you're putting like the wrong things and like listening all the time, it can really affect you in a lot of deep ways that you don't necessarily accept on a conscious level. So I try to be intentional about it. You know, sometimes I default to my, like gangster rap. You know, I appreciate some bobbing. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
I appreciate
there's
some
nothing
good
wrong with
beats.
gangster rap.
Yeah, there's nothing fundamentally wrong
Sometimes
with
you're in
it.
that mood.
Yeah,
You
sometimes
wanna
you're in
be
that
gangsta
mood.
today.
Yeah.
Until they start,
Right.
subjecting our women
Yeah,
and all
there's
those
a-
things. But
Yeah, and like on a large scale, I think like music is a reflection of like the like collective consciousness and what
Yeah.
everyone is thinking about. But the problem I have with like rap music for like the black community is I think we always default to like the subjectivization of our women and the pursuit of monetary and material gains and like shooting each other and stuff like that. So I try and limit like how much I listen to that just because I don't want to feel like I'm reinforcing it.
yeah.
But why do you feel like rap culture looks like that? And it still looks like that. It's been something that we've been struggling with
For a long time.
ever since like rap came into existence. It was always like that peak,
Yeah. and-
like always falling into that phase, and we never understand why. Like we're always just like, we're always like complaining about, the way that the world looks and the way that, society treats us as black people. But then, our music is here talking about shooting the next brother, shooting the next sister,
Exactly,
taking
yeah.
this homie's girl, and how much drugs we can shoot up our system. And
I think like so like when rap music first came into being, it was really about telling the narrative of black people. And that narrative at the time was like, we're getting shot down, we're killing each other, we're shooting each other, we're treating our women like this and that. And I think like even though there's room for like social change within it, it's become less about the artwork that was telling our stories and more about like reinforcing the same stories that started to get us paid.
Yes.
So like in that way, like capitalism permeated the culture,
Yeah.
and now it's at a point where like we don't even like we know it's wrong,
Yeah.
and we're still like, yeah, I'm a jam to it, right?
Yeah.
I might live my life slightly differently because I learned a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm still gonna jam to it. I'm still
Right.
gonna like we're gonna play it in the clubs and stuff like that because that's the only thing that's still connecting us. Because it's all that we know. We don't want to get deep. We want to be on the surface level and just listen to the
Yeah.
jams.
Like the oppression of the years is just something that you're living with and
Yeah.
kind of like you're not even paying homage to it. It's just like, yeah, I've been oppressed. This is my
Yeah,
life.
oppression.
This is how it is. Yeah.
Oppression in this. Yeah.
Like that's just what it seems like on a constant basis. And I think that you made a good point, and like you may not be living in it in an everyday life, but you're still rapping about it. You're still
Yeah.
like, or not you in general, but
he might be, you don't know.
the
he said he
shower.
doesn't rap. But yeah, so like when you listen to like Lil Wayne or Uzi or whatever his name is, Vert,
Vert.
whatever.
It's like I'm a hypocrite because like
Listen,
I know
I don't
what
listen
they're
to him,
talking
so
about.
I'm like,
Yeah. Like I know what they're talking about, but I'm still like, all my friends are dead. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
When that
That's
song
really
came out, I
That
was
song
so offended.
I was upset with that song. I'm like,
Why
Like,
though? Because
especially-
he's talking about money though, like.
but on the
But
surface,
is it
like kids aren't thinking that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like,
13-year-olds are
all my
like,
friends
oh,
are dead.
I'm
Right.
depressed now.
Right,
All my
right,
friends are
right.
dead. This is cool.
You have to be
It's
able
not
to
cool.
decipher it because like
but when you're 7 years old,
Yeah,
Right.
my
or 10
kids,
years
we can
old,
decipher
I
it,
mean-
but the kids can't.
at 13 I was deciphering.
You was a
You know what I
smart
mean? And I had
13-year-old.
like a mentor and my brothers like listening to it, so I've never felt the need like to put Molly in her champagne, but it sounds good to say it. Not saying I would do that though, but like I've listened to that music, like I listen to Boosie in the morning,
Yeah.
but it's nothing
That's
like,
fine.
you know, I'm bobbing through traffic like you said, but you have to be able to decipher. So yeah, music does set the mood, but I think we can decipher. I think people just kind of just say, oh, you know what, like this music made me feel some type of way. So like, what's that girl name on the wrecking ball and she's half naked? You know what I mean?
Miley
So, like,
Cyrus.
it's not only black people though. I think
Oh,
we just
no,
have to be able to
100%,
decipher
right.
because like I
Well,
sing
Robin
that
Thicke,
song.
the same
I'm not
thing
gonna
happened
get
with
naked and
Robin
go
Thicke.
on a wrecking ball though, but it sounds good to say. That's just my take on it.
I also feel like people listen to me, like, I'm the very big listener, like, depending on my mood. It's like music doesn't set my mood.
Yeah.
I'm in my mood and I find music
That
reinforces my mood. So I'm an older sibling and I'm one of those siblings that's just like, you're not going to suffer the way that I suffered.
Yeah.
I refuse. So then, like, when my 12-year-old brother was here, like, oh, my friends are dead. I'm like, what friends do you have that are dead? Please explain to me. Which ones? What are their names? And it's like, you don't realize, but it's like sometimes you take a step back and like you realize, like, my brother who was just completely happy and full of life and just wanted to go to school and get an education, and then a few years later, like, just depressed and sad. And you're trying to think, like, why did he get like that? What happened to him? Like, life at home is still the same. He's getting food, he's getting everything that he needs, he's getting all his necessities met, but it's like this happy-go-lucky kid that I once knew is no longer that kid anymore. So then I started to realize that music has more of an influence, like a subconscious influence, that if you're not mindful of what you're putting in, it'll do some things to you without you realizing.
For sure.
And children are not at the, I feel like, children are not at that functioning level for them to be doing all that
To
processing, because they're already trying to grow and grow up and figure out who they are. So it's like all these things that are happening in their mind they're not thinking about.
Yeah,
I think
for
it
sure.
has just to do with environment in general. And so, like, we're talking about music and how it affects the psyche, I guess. But I think in general, like, the environment, and we're seeing a lot of mental health issues right now, and we're seeing a lot of, like, kids on drugs for ADHD, ADD, because people are just quick to diagnose these kids with all these different diseases or ailments, and they're walking around like zombies because they're on these meds. And I think that, you know, if somebody isn't on this and they're looking at somebody else, like, I'm somebody who feeds off of energy, right? And so, like, if all four of you right now are, like, releasing good energy around me, like, I'm gonna feel good. I feel like things are good.
Yeah.
But if I hug you and I feel tension, or I feel like there's just something off, like, I'm gonna start feeling depressed. I'm gonna feel drained. And there's people who just drain you of your energy. And I think that that is something that's important too, because your environment also dictates how you live.
It's true.
Jesse, you wanted to add something?
No, I can't stop thinking about the comment that you said in terms of capitalism, because I think there is like levels of deciphering, and that's not only for the environment that you live in and the family that you live in and the friends that you have, but it's but it's also I think it's important to think too is like what's driving the music. Is that the culture? Is that the capitalism?
Yeah.
At its core, it isn't art anymore.
Right.
No.
We all needed a minute to swallow that.
So moving on, food. Food equals culture.
It really does.
True.
Like, I mean, y'all could talk about your food and, like, your favorite foods, all the foods. I mean, I love all the foods, clearly. So I'm like, I love the food. I mean, I think it's a great way to celebrate our heritage and our cultures. And, you know,
Bring
when we were
people
talking about it
together.
earlier, like, when you were connecting, like, with your Jamaican food, and I think of, like, Caribbean food is so, like, we all have the same, like,
The basics.
base
pretty much the
base
same.
ingredients. Like, we're talking about
rice and beans.
Yes!
Well, y'all got it.
I was thinking
Y'all
about the
got it.
oxtail that we had the other day here on campus, and I was like, dang, I missed out on the oxtail. I was so pissed.
But it was
Yeah.
kind of cool because even with the oxtail, we're kind of looking at it. We're like,
This don't look the same.
it don't.
Who made it? What?
Some of them Jamaican food
Right,
truck
but
that
it's
was
just
every.
like, just because cultures are so different, like, you know, like Haitians will cook it one way, Jamaicans will cook
Yeah.
it one way, you know, the Latinos will cook it one way. And I'm looking, I'm like, why does it look so light? All the way, and I'm just here like kind of going through it. I'm like, I don't know. But like for me, it's like not only eating the food is like keeping in touch with my culture, but I love to cook my food for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it brings me so much joy. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking for, and I'm that type of person, like, ask my mom, my brothers, if I'm cooking, leave me alone. I don't need your help. Don't come in the kitchen.
Oh,
Go
listen.
away. Like, people
Yeah.
always be like,
Listen,
Yeah, mess with your
don't
cheek.
touch it, please.
I have a story about this for Thanksgiving. I went home, and for whatever reason, I don't know what I was watching, and I was just like, dang, I really want to make an apple pie. I've never made a homemade apple pie. It's really white, I know. But I was like, I just really want to make an apple pie. Like, this was my one thing that I wanted to do. I made it the first day. No help from nobody. Like, everyone is in the kitchen or like doing their own thing. The next day, my grandfather wanted more because he ate like almost the whole pie. Because it was like, hey, this is good. So I made some adjustments. We went back for Christmas. During Thanksgiving, they started to give like some tips, and then in Christmas, my mom and my grandma were sitting at the bar in the kitchen as I'm making things, and they start to say, well, do this and do this and do this. And I said, excuse me. I said, who's making the pie? I said, y'all ate the pie the last time and said it was delicious, right? So let me keep making my pie the way that I want to make my pie. And I said, because when the two of you are in the kitchen, you don't let nobody touch anything. So I was like, let me do my thing the way that I want to. Because I respect you when you're in the kitchen, respect me in the kitchen. And that's going back to what you said. Because like when I'm in the kitchen, don't touch my stuff.
I know what I'm doing. And if I don't,
need
you ain't gotta know.
All I need you for is to taste it to make sure it's on the right track. That's it.
So question, what if they told you like food was bad? Because I'm not going to sugarcoat it with you. Like if you cook and I don't think the food
Listen,
is
anything that I cook is going to be good.
Oh,
Not just that.
Every time.
Every single
But
time.
your critique is nothing compared to the critique of my brothers. My brothers rate everything that I make from a scale of 1 to 10. And I be making food and like everybody be like, it's bomb. And my brothers would be like, 4.4. 4.4. Solid 4.4. Like no debate, no discussions. And it's a thing now. It's just like, I always like, just waiting for them to take a fish back.
Just give me a 5 this time. Just give me a 5.
Like, can I get like a 6? Like,
What's the basil expression?
But Issa, you did say something, and I kind of just want to touch on, and you said, I know it's white, I know. So like, I don't know, because I think it's become like a cultural thing for like many cultures to be like, it's the Haitian in me, or that's so Jamaican, or I know it's white. But like, what does that actually mean when we say that? Can it be taken as offensive?
Right.
Like just let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, and I think when I say that, it's more of like the traditional American dish. You know what I mean? And it's
like,
not
what America are you talking about?
Because the America that society has presented to us.
Because I know a lot of Black Americans, like,
for sure,
who will throw down like an apple pie, peach cobbler, So
but
like, what?
There's different twists on it. So this was more of like a traditional white American apple pie. It was from like this white lady recipe that that was on there. But I threw in my little Puerto Rican sass in there, right? So like, I didn't follow the recipe. I just needed a guide.
Right. I just needed the skeleton.
I just needed the guide of like, am I doing this the right way? Because I've never made it before, so I need a guide, and I throw in my little things here and there. Like I threw it, I put in a little bit extra this and a little bit of extra that, and I added some bourbon and I did some this, and I'm like, like I just do my thing, right? Like I don't need to follow a recipe by like, here's 1.24 cups of water. I can't do those things, right? And so, and I think that when we're looking at like Food Network, when we're looking at like Barefoot Contessa or all these things, that's like your traditional like white American, right? And so when I made that comment, that's what I was thinking.
Potato salad with the raisins.
Oh, what?
Yuck.
What did she say?
Potato salad with the raisins.
That was a really big thing, like in our generation, like the Karen.
Karen.
Karen, because Karen put the raisins in the potato salad.
Oh wow.
Okay.
I get
Random question. So is mac and cheese a side?
Oh my God, no!
We are not doing this.
We've asked her like 4 times and she won't answer.
Yo, what's the right answer?
She never answers.
I'm not. No, you. They do this to me every time.
We just want to know.
Why?
Why so we can understand?
But see, this is okay. No, going back. No, I'm not doing this. Because going back to it, is it? How are you defining certain things, and is it okay to define them in those certain ways? And is that characteristic of certain things? You just asked her that question in terms of why did you have to call it this way, or that's the American way of doing it, that's the Haitian way of doing it.
But is that bad if those ways exist?
I wasn't saying it was bad.
No, I'm just asking.
I'm
just asking questions. So I think it's important to have these conversations so we know. I think a lot of times we get just so caught up in the norm, but we don't know if it's right. We don't know if it's wrong. We don't know if it's offensive. So like I feel like I'm honestly asking because I don't know. Like, is it wrong? Like if you were to say, oh, that's the Black thing to do, I'm asking myself, would I be offended? I probably would, because then I'd be like, what do you mean by that?
It's the intention.
And like you and I have been friends for a while now. Yeah. There's probably nothing that you can do to like offend me because I know you're trying to understand me and I'm trying to understand you, right?
Yeah.
So I think because I know that you have good intentions, like there's nothing that you could do that could offend me. But like when you meet someone who you don't know what their intentions are, does that statement hurt? Does it even open up a space to have that conversation is what I'm asking, like at the table. Just so that we can like better understand, because we're not always gonna be in a space where we know everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't, see, that's a tough one because it really is the intentions, but how do you know someone's intention and their background in terms of it? And I think like something that is missing is that dialogue. Like people are scared to have certain dialogue with each other. Like how do you have those first conversations and interactions to get to that next point. And it's funny because I think about, you know, when you and I first met, like we were literally like merged together because we tried to start something on this campus. And you didn't know my intentions,
Right.
you know, but at the same time, like we just tried to figure it out, and we asked questions and we talked to each other about it, and we figured it out. But
think a
yeah,
lot
in the
of that
moment,
came-
it's tough.
I think a lot of that came because it's just like, I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'll tell everyone this story. Like, when they told me that I was gonna be working with you, the first thing I did, I went on Facebook, and I was just like, who is this girl? You know, and I saw it was another white girl, because we were talking about, like, we're trying to diversify the campus, we're talking about equity and all these different things, inclusivity, and so I'm like, let me see who I'm gonna be working with. I'm like, it's a white girl. So already, like, my unconscious bias was already forming my, you know, my opinions of you before I even met you. So I remember I walked into that room and I'm just like, in my head I was like, there's nothing that this girl can say to me that can even relate to like my experience or what it means to be equitable.
Yeah.
And you surprised me, I ain't gonna lie. Like, you're very conscious, and so from there I was just like, I'm gonna give her a chance. So I'm just trying to like gauge like myself and figure out like how many times I walked around this campus going to a PWI, predominantly white institution, and how many people I already shut off before I even give a chance, just because, you know, you just assume.
Well, and this is the tough part, like when you're at a university, and just going back to almost like the beginning and how you were talking about like in your 20s, you were starting to like learn a lot about your background and your culture and who you are. And I think it's so important to have these touch points at this university that embrace all of those different backgrounds and cultures, because then that is how you meet other people that have those good intentions and want to learn about each other and want to engage with each other. But if we don't have those events and things that are happening on campus, then how are we going to be able to engage and work together and have that all together unity? And like the universities that promote that level of equity are the ones that are being able to bring students together through their different events and the things that happen on campus. And I think that's what brought us together, is because like that's what we wanted to see and that's what we wanted to have happen here. And it's definitely happening in different realms. It's just important to make sure that everyone like, you know, like participate, show up.
Yeah.
I think it's also important, like, when the institution buys into it,
Yeah.
They have
from
to
the
create
top
spaces.
down.
From the top down.
From the top down, as if the institution buys into it, you see it like happen more smoothly.
Yeah.
You know, if it's just the people at the bottom working it, it's a struggle.
It's grassroots.
That's my life.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
on a constant basis, it's like, how do I get students to these programs for Black History Month? How do I get these students out to programs for Hispanic Heritage Month?
Yeah.
How do I get women to come out to Women's History Month programming, to understand like our history and where we came from and why we're here and why we have the right to vote, Black and women,
And how do you
and
get that?
Latinx, and our like everything. And we have migrant farm workers that are 40 minutes from our campus, and people don't even recognize that because they are too busy buying from Wendy's when they don't want to provide or be part of the Fair Food Act program.
Yeah.
Like, all these things are social issues that are right here in our backyard, and we're not even like worried about it, or like our students are just not concerned because they're so preoccupied with other things. Or is it just because we are at a PWI and the privilege is there and it's not part of it? But
I also
then
think that it's also because, like you said, a lot of students are just
lost.
no, they're
Trying to
just
get
no.
through.
But also a lot of them just accept the fact that this
That's
is the
true.
life that they're living. It's just like, I'll go to these Black History Month programming, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be Black and people are going to still oppress me. So like, what's the point? And I've heard that conversation so many times, and I'm always at a loss for words, like how to combat that. Because we were at the Martin Luther King parade, like, and I remember the guy in the microphone was just like, "What do we want?" And I'm like, "Freedom." He's like, "When do we want it?" Now. And people are like, "We're not free." I'm like,
No.
are we? You know, and it's like, that's when I really realized, I was like, we're just out here living as Black people, but not really understanding what
Yeah.
it means to be
The
Black in
system.
America.
Yeah.
The system
Yeah.
in which we live
Yeah.
in. And it's not just as simple as just being Black, but understanding
Yeah.
what rights look like and what we have and what we don't have.
And the levels that all of that plays again into culture and capitalism, but also that systematic racism that happens at different levels, whether that at your university or in your community or the local legislation or the people you're voting for. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be something that is throughout. It's not 1 month. We have to have that level of unity. So when we are voting for places and when we are creating the communities we want to be living in, we're doing it in a way that is with everybody.
And I think it's necessary that, like, as universities and colleges, they're the first step towards going out into the real life. So there should be
Yeah.
importance on creating those spaces so that we can develop ourselves, so we can learn about our culture, our identity, stuff like that.
Do you think that's harder at a predominantly white institution?
I think traditionally it has. My only experience is at GCU, and I'm closely tied, or I'm tied into the community more than a lot of other people are. So I have the opportunity to see this program. I have the opportunity to see what's going on and what kind of initiatives are being in it. But I also know that there's kids who are living in Sylvie and they leave after their first year because they don't know what the heck is going on. They don't know that there's people out there that want them to succeed. They're just like, damn, I tried to go to college. It was kind of hard, you know. The food in Sophie wasn't that great. You know what I'm saying? I think I should just go back home. Yeah. I think I should just go back home and work.
Yeah.
And then they get into this job where they're working these complacent jobs. They don't have any purpose. They don't know what they want to do with their life. They don't feel good about being black because they're in a workplace in corporate America where all these white folk are just kind of pricing them, and they're like, hey, can I touch your hair today? Can you do a dance move for me? And it's sad.
And that's why it's so important to have black faculty that are working with students their first year. Like, be intentional about the places that we're trying to set in these areas. Have more black staff first year, so when students do come onto this campus, they see and they have people that can support them and they can talk to.
Representation
And representation matters.
And like, I feel like a lot of institutions believe that if they have some representation, then that's enough, and it really isn't, because just the black faculty and staff that I know, like the Kendall Michelle or Dr. Blakely, and it's like, if you have so little, every black student's gonna want to be mentored by these people, and it's like, they're exhausted, they're spread so thin, and it's just the same
It's
people.
called cultural taxation.
Period.
And see, this is why it's important to show up to like the search committees. Like, students can participate in the search committees of some of the people that are being hired on this campus.
Really?
But how do they find out about this?
Yeah.
It's not going to be
Yeah.
on our Instagram pages. It's not.
I mean, I
it's
put
like not
people's
as
names
accessible.
forward, but doesn't necessarily mean that
That they're
that's
gonna get chosen.
gonna get chosen, or that they're gonna, you know, consider them. And you know, any opportunity that I hear about for our students, we try really hard to like move forward to our students, and knowing, you know, in a way, like MLD is kind of like the cultural hub, I guess, of campus in a way. Besides Trio and SSS, I think like that's why we make fun and say, like, joke around that we're cousins, because like if students are at MLD, they're at Trio. If they're not at Trio, they're in MLD, and it's most of our cultural students, like our black students, our mixed students, our Indian students, our Muslim students. You know, all of our students that have some type of affinity or affiliation are going to be in these two areas on our campus. That third
And
space
those
that
two
you
areas
create.
are so hidden.
They're hidden and they're
so
small.
hidden and they're tiny.
Yeah.
Because my first year at FGCU, like, I was literally like one of those, I'm going to class and go home. There's nothing else for me on this campus. And like, everybody knows my Leadership Academy story. I'm not going to spit it again, but that's really where like I found people just like, hey, come to this place, come to that place. But it's like, yeah, you see MLD on the Instagram, but it's like, you don't know what MLD is. You don't know where it is. And it's like,
Yeah, people think we're an RSO. They're like, well, how do we sign up?
Right,
What
or-
are your meetings?
exactly,
I'm
like, how do we
we're
join?
a department. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, but how do I join? I was like, you don't join. You just come, have lunch, hang out, like come to our
Listen to
programs,
music.
listen to music. We play music on the TV all the time. Like, help us do some work. Like, that's how it is. Like, that's what we do in our center. And, you know, and we're trying really hard to reach out to more students that are going to be attracted to our space, but even those students who don't necessarily feel like they fit in that space, because you know, the truth of the matter is that they see the word multicultural and they get scared. Like, they're like, well, I'm not multicultural. I can't take advantage of any of these opportunities. And we're like, no, yeah, you can. You can. It's for you to learn and grow and expand, learn, growth mindset. Like, why don't you want to figure out what that word means and why you wouldn't fit it? Like, come in, you know what I mean? But I feel like we're like,
people are
going on a
afraid to be
tangent, yeah.
offensive. People are afraid to say something that's not right and be called out on it. And I think that's why people are like, I don't know enough, so I'm just gonna stay away. But like, it's crazy because I remember when I started at MLD and now looking at the space now, like literally we have every type of face, every color of skin, and it's like, it's not just important for black students to have black faculty and staff, Hispanic
It's so
staff.
important.
It's important for all students to have
Absolutely.
that,
Yeah.
you know, and to
Yeah.
see how comfortable they are in this space and how important that space is for them, who are in that space more than I am as, you know, a black student. And
Yeah.
it is question time. I'm
Yes.
not gonna act like I didn't see the poster. Time.
all right. So so far we have about 4 questions that were submitted, and so for our audience, if there's a certain question that you like, please go ahead and like it. If you like it, it moves up in the post, so it gives us an opportunity to get to, you know, a favorite question first. So I'm just gonna do them in order right now. So the first one is, what is a way we can create a culture on our campus to have to have a socially conscious student body?
What we're looking at.
We're looking at me. Honestly, I think it starts with the people who have access to the students all the time. So I think our professors are the first place that should be creating a socially conscious campus. I think they should be talking about MLD as a department. I think they should be talking about events. If there was some sort of like newsletters that our professors were getting to say this is what's going on. There is? Well, they never spoke about.
Oh my God! Every single month.
They should be telling the students, hey, this is happening here, 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 and they should be telling them why it's important. Because they're the first, like, they're the connection to the community, they're the connection to the university.
Right, and there are some students, like I realized being a student leader, what you said is so important because there's so many students I will never reach. Like every day I come onto campus, I see faces I've never seen before, and it's like, hey, where have you been? But like professors, every student will encounter a professor. That's why they're here. So professors are that first line of defense. It's like just understanding your classroom. You see like the demographic of your classroom. You should be promoting these different offices, which is why I really love the Harry Potter course because like we spend a lot of time and making the students know the campus. Like this is MLD. This is what they do. This is where they are. Go find it. This is Trio. This is what they do. This is where they are. Go find it so they know.
Okay. Next question. Why do you think certain music is deemed as masculine in the Black culture? Parentheses, rap.
I would say it's the artist. I mean, like, if Uzi Vert is singing the song, I mean, he's a male, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you look at any other, it doesn't just have to be rap, it could be like any song, but I think it all depends on the artist because I'm a Future fan, so like, if you hear the voice, you see the dreads, you see the way he carries himself, it's like masculine. Yeah, the locks. Yeah, let me not say dreads. The locks. It's just, you know it's masculine, like, he talks about women, like, you could see it, you feel it.
But I have to be on the other side, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate right now. So, like when you look at Foxy Brown, Lil Kim, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, like when they came out onto the scene, and a whole lot of other women rappers that don't get to the level of these male rappers because they're like, oh, she's a woman. The only reason why she's there is because she's sleeping with the whole crew, right? And it's like, okay, but you're talking about me sleeping with the whole crew, but it's okay for you to talk about it. So that was a double standard, right? So if I'm gonna talk about me being a hoe, I'm gonna be a hoe. I'm owning that identity, and I'm gonna say, well, yeah, this is what I'm doing, and yeah, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and this is my body, and I'm owning it, and I'm gonna rap about it, and you're gonna respect me for it. And that's what Nicki did, and that's what Cardi's doing, and I think that is one, beautiful, and two, like that double standard is so like heavy that it's ridiculous. It really is. When we talk about gender roles, when we talk about these things, it's like it's extremely prevalent in music.
So question, how do you feel about Drake's Loving the Crew? Like, do you see females sing that song?
I haven't heard. I need to hear the song. I'm really bad with like names of songs and titles, so I would have to see. I'm really bad when it comes to like, but if I hear it, I'll be like, okay. And I'm not saying that females need to sing the songs that the male rappers or that they don't need to rap those songs. What I'm saying is that rap is looked at as a masculine thing, right? Like why can't women? Yeah, like why can't women rap too? You get what I'm saying? Like it's not about it's not about what they're rapping. It's about the actual rap in general as a job. Like women can rap too, just like I could be a CEO if he could be a CEO.
Right.
And sometimes they're better, and I'm not gonna throw no shade or anything, but like just looking at our campus, it's like our women's basketball team is amazing.
It always
like,
has been.
And they always has been. But it's like, do they get as much recognition as the men's basketball team who isn't doing quite as hot?
The women's
it's just
the
always
section is always empty in the women's games, and you see the men's games, it's jam packed. I'm like, okay, like granted, yes, the support is there, but like the women need just as much support. Like they're the ones winning the championships.
I totally agree.
Like we had 1 year. Good job.
I think but that also goes back to like the root of like basketball versus the root of rap.
Yeah.
Where rap started as telling the male story of shooting people and pushing that kind of patriarchal viewpoint.
Yep.
Basketball started as a display of athleticism.
Yeah.
So do we look at it in both ways and say we change how we look at basketball? That it's just kind of the question that we have to ask ourselves. Because I think that's where it is. I don't think women's basketball doesn't get as much attention because people don't want to support the women. I think men's basketball gets more attention because at the root of basketball, it's a display of athleticism, and biologically women can jump as higher in most cases. Is that no?
1000%. I'm like,
I mean,
So
we just had like a whole handful of NBA stars come out and say like these women need to be playing with us in the NBA. Like when you're looking at WNBA, like some of these women can smash the men in the NBA. Like some of these are punks. Like I'm just gonna say it, like they're punks.
I think,
But I think it's like when you're talking about display of athleticism, like a woman's body is built way stronger than a man's body at the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, like no shade, like nothing. Like our bodies can withstand so much.
we have cramps.
Listen. Like there's so many different things, but I think that at the root of it, it's like how did it all start and like why it started, and I think that that's like the historical context of it, and I think it's honorable to look at that. But at the end of the day, it's still very sexist to say like men are more athletic than women, or that people just don't want to see women in sports, or whatever the case.
Maybe I didn't say
I'm
that.
not saying that that's what you're saying, but in general, like there might be people out there thinking that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're women, they can't do it. Like, look at Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I saw T-Von
Yeah.
had a question.
We have
Gabe had a
two.
question. Go ahead, Gabe.
So you're talking about how music affects people subconsciously, and the conversation about your brother, like he has a perfect life where his life is the same as it's been the same like throughout his whole lifetime. So why is he feeling this way towards the music he's hearing now? But I think a lot of people use music to find similarities in the struggle, not necessarily the context of the struggle that's happening for each person. So it's like each person's struggle is subjective to them. So they don't necessarily like. I could listen to a song by NBA YoungBoy right now, but I'm not shooting anybody. I'm not doing any drugs. But the fact that he's going through a struggle with something in his life, and I feel like maybe something I'm going through kind of depicts that same emotion. Like people feed off of that, and they're related to people who are going through the similar things they are too. So I think when it comes to music and its culture, I think, although what the rappers are saying in the music is not necessarily positive or paving the way for a brighter future, I think it's also important to realize that people might not be listening to what exactly they're talking about. And how many
But the
conversations
feeling of the song.
Yeah.
You have to think about how many conversations do you have with your brother about his mental health and what he's going through in life or in school. So I think
I totally hear what you're saying because, like I said too, like I listen to.
Do you mind summarizing the rules with her?
Oh right. So the comment was, dang, I'm gonna do really bad. Please go ahead, Jesse.
Oh.
What I got out of it is, it's your brother and it's you. Both of you all may hear the same music, but both decipher it differently. So how do you know his struggle or what he's going through?
And I think it goes back to what you were
Yes.
saying before, Kendall, like during that conversation of like everyone deciphers it differently.
Right.
And I think for an important part that you mentioned is like the unity. Like the struggle might look different in terms of like this person is saying this or this person is doing that, but there's a unity within that struggle.
And just listening, not always listening to a song because of its lyrics, but also the feeling that it's trying to portray. Like because I feel sad in this way, I can relate to this song, not because I'm out there, shooting people or doing drugs, but I understand the pain of it, and that's the pain that I'm feeling. And I would say that I talk to my brothers like very frequently because when I was younger, I also struggled with my mental health as well. So I'm very active when it comes to like always checking on them, and we have conversations, and I understand that everyone's going to struggle. I'm not going to say my brothers have a perfect life because, just because your basic needs are met doesn't mean like the world isn't impacting you in certain ways. But I think I do still stick behind like music still playing a role subconsciously. Sometimes it intensifies like your feelings way more than you're feeling. A lot of conversations that I have with my brothers, like trying to decipher what it is exactly you're feeling, because a lot of times you feel sad, you don't know why you feel sad, and then you listen to all this music and it's kind of feeding in more pain, and then you realize, oh my God, I feel all of this, and it's just like a lot of the pain that you're carrying isn't yours. So what is it that you're carrying? What is it that you're feeling? And to kind of talk through that, work through that, and then, he's doing okay, we still have our conversations, but I really try to be active when it comes to like checking on him, because I know like music does play that kind of role, and because he's not thinking of it that way, it plays a bigger part in his life. Like it does a lot more subconsciously because he's not as aware as probably I am because I'm older. So it's just like, for me, it's important like to know, because that music exists, because those kind of movies exist, because of all this things that they find in mass media that's constantly like shooting up our children with all this content, to make sure like we're deciphering that content, to realize, to make sure that he knows this is the content that I really actually do relate to, and this is the other content that I'm kind of just letting influence me. I don't know if that makes sense, but conversations are so important.
So in the interest of time, I'm gonna try and get through the question. Oh, I'm sorry, T. Go ahead.
My question was back to like the masculinity and like, so for me in the black community, like guys who like me for myself, like I don't listen to a lot of rap, I listen to like soul music. So like it seemed as
That hits you down inside, like.
it's seen as like it's not as masculine. Like my dad would be like, well, why are you listening to Tony Braxton? Like, I just like music. But to him, it doesn't seem like it's masculine because I'm not listening to that. I'm not talking about it.
Well, I think that's a conversation about like toxic masculinity and like what we're raising our boys, our men, to understand as masculinity, right? And so I think it goes back into people's upbringings and what they've brought into their homes and how they see themselves and how they see like society. And so, you know, I saw, you know, a meme, I guess, earlier this week, and it says, you know, don't worry so much about your daughter and how she's being treated, because it's about how you raise your son. And so, you know, and for me, it's like, well, why is it just daughter? But that's a whole other conversation, because men can love men too. But at the end of the day, it's like, how are we raising our children? What are we raising them to be? Who are we raising them to be? What are we raising them to understand and believe? Because racism is taught. It is not like part of your being. Like, you are taught to be prejudiced. You are taught to be racist. You are taught to be a bad, hateful person. Like, those are not things that are just like built in your soul. It's because those are learned behaviors. And I think, not saying that your dad is that person, but maybe there was something in his upbringing that made him believe like that's not music that men need to listen to.
And it also plays a big part in our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question was, you know, when it comes to masculinity, does it make someone less of a man, like based on, like if they don't prefer rap, like if rap is not their go-to, if they like to listen to more soulful music or other genres of music that exist versus rap, like what does that look like when it comes to masculinity? And for me, like, it's a cultural thing. Like, I think it goes all the way back to like racism, like men being on the plantation, like men just having to hold the family, being the back of the family, being the background, having to provide for the family. And then it came to the time where, yeah, we weren't probably slaves anymore, but women still couldn't work the way that men could. So like men still had to carry the family, they had to be the provider, they had to be tough. And I think it just got confused as it got down, like as generations progress, like that mentality still exists. It looks different, people push it differently, but I still think like that root masculinity, like
still there.
From far long ago.
It still has so much emotion, and it brings out so much emotion in people. And so a lot of people will decide not to listen to it because they're like, no, I can't show that kind of emotion.
I mean,
like,
but if
that's not what
and
I'm
I
here
think
for.
it goes in like generations, right? Like the genre. So like if you look at Smokey Robinson, Al Green, Barry White, you look at Tony Braxton, you look at all these singers, Erykah Badu, Sade, like you like this is my playlist in my office, right? And so like this is
Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill's on there too. Lauryn Hill, and she's about to drop an album. Yes, she's about to drop an album. Yes. So like when you think of these, like this is stuff that you listen to, like you pick the music for your mood, not your mood picks your music. You know, and some people are vice versa. And I think that, you know, this is just like our history. Like this is just like the things. And you know, I joke with my mom all the time because that's the music I grew up listening to in Miami, and a whole bunch of other things. But it's like music isn't made the way that it used to be. Like the intentionality behind music nowadays. Like if you listen to Biggie and Tupac, like they had reason behind their music. You know what I mean? Like there was purpose behind their lyrics. It was still talking about shooting and drugs and all this stuff, but there was still purpose behind it and saying like, this is my story and I'm putting it out there for the world to hear.
And I think like some artists are trying to come back with that because like you listen to like Roddy Ricch Ballin', like though it's like, you know, a stroll song, whatever. But you know, like if you really listen, like he's talking about his life, he's talking about his story, and I think we're finding our way back to that. But I know you didn't ask for advice, but I think I think that conversation
Yeah.
literally is the answer to everything. I think I tell everyone this, it's not just my generation, but any generation, like as a child, like it's our responsibility to break those generational curses. And there are some conversations I have to have with my mom. They're tough.
Yeah.
You know, like about like babying my brothers. It's like they can do their laundry, make them do
Enabling.
you know, enabling them. Like if we don't do it, it will continue to be a generational thing. And like the next thing we're gonna know is gonna be 100 years from now, but yet we still have the mentality of when we were slaves. And I think we just need to have those hard conversations on our campuses about our culture, at home about our culture, with the people younger than us, people older than us about our culture, so that we can create a culture that fits us in the generation that we're living in today, that's suitable for today. Because a lot of things that we're still doing, a lot of the things that we're still thinking is not for our life anymore right now.
So I do have one more question that I want to ask, because it's, I think, a really good question and something that often gets brought up in like side conversations, and then we can end after that. It's how do we feel about the word NIGGA being said with positive intention? Should we discontinue this verbiage?
Yes, that's my answer.
But how do you feel about it being used in positive intention?
I don't know. For me, it's like
So you answered
I
one
don't
question,
think-
but not the other.
I don't think it's ever used with positive intention. I think it's used with comfortable intention. Because you're my friend, because we're cool, because we're comfortable, I can call you that word, you know? There's not everybody I'll use that word with, and I just think, anyway, someone else. Popcorn.
What I've noticed is like when it comes to words with historical context, we allow some of them to change the definitions, but we don't allow others to change the definitions. We think language is static, and it's absolutely not. I think the historical background of the word NIGGA is incredibly emotionally impactful.
Yeah.
But I kind of liken it to the same way that I forget what the movement is called. I don't necessarily associate it with feminism, but it's related to women's empowerment and how they took the word like slut or hoe back.
Yeah, like slut walks.
I think black people did the same thing with NIGGA, but some people want to argue that because it's rooted in such deeper, or I mean, I don't even want to do the oppression Olympics, so I can't say one oppressive nature is deeper than another. They want to separate it because it might be a little bit closer to them.
Right.
I don't have an answer for it.
Right. I feel that because like even me, like I will not let anyone call me a slut. Like even if we took the word back, like.
But some people are like, yeah, I'm a slut.
And
I'm a
I
hoe.
understand
They're like,
that.
yeah. And I'm like, do that. That's you. That's your world. Like,
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But don't call me it. I can call myself that.
But
Well,
I feel
I mean,
like
but queer is the same thing. So like queer was a
Exactly.
term that was retaken by the community, and like you should never call somebody queer unless you're like talking about like the queer community. But you should never say, oh, like he's a queer person or they're a queer person, unless they've said like, please identify me as that. But there's so many words in history that have been taken back and like used as what's the word I'm looking for? Used as like empowering words now. And
But, like, my only
the
issue-
history of it is like
my issue is like the confusion that comes with it.
Yes,
Because like
I agree.
I remember
100%.
you were in that class when
Yes,
you know like
yes.
there was a black girl. She's just like, yeah, my friends can call me nigga. That's fine. You know, my white friends. And it's like then other people see that and then it gets out of control because you don't have any control over it anymore. And for me, it's just like because we use it and then we get to invite people to the cookout and then they can use it and then it gets confusing because no one knows what's appropriate anymore. People
I've
don't
been
know.
to too many cookouts and I still don't use the word.
People,
No.
a lot of people don't understand that.
No.
A lot of
I had
people
a friend
understand
growing up in high school. She was just like, well, I'm Latina, so I can use the word. I said, no, you can't. I said, I don't know who gave you that permission.
I gave you that card. She
Yeah, I
told
was
us.
like, And she goes, well, I'm dating a black guy. I said, just because you're dating a black, I was like, I dated black guys too, but I still don't use the word. Like, no, like that's not a thing.
And I think that's my biggest issue with it. Like, I'm not gonna say like I ever feel offended when I hear two black people talking to each other and they use the word. It doesn't offend me as much, but then it's always that thought, and it's just like, you know, what if someone heard you and they think that they can use it?
Yeah.
And that's what.
That or they play music on campus and you're like, what are you
I never let that slide. I'm sorry.
Kendall, I'd like to get your point of view.
I think you just have to pick your poison. Because like if I'm talking to my bros and we see something crazy, we'll be like, oh dang, that is stupid. Like, but we just have a natural conversation.
Yeah.
But then like, if I'm walking on campus and like somebody sees me like, oh look at that I guess so. You just have
That's
to
the
pick your
intent
poison.
behind the word, I think.
But that's what I
and
mean.
the tone. I think tone is important because that was going back to something that Justice said earlier. I meant to say it is that your tone of how you say things is so important too.
True.
It's not just intentionality; it's the tone.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
I still think you just have to pick your poison though, because like if we're having a meeting and like we were all on time, like man, our early Jesse walked in late, so you on CBT.
One time.
We're not on CBT today.
One time. I'm always here an hour early. One time. I'm
All it
a
takes is
minute
one
late.
time.
It just has me thinking like you just have
It
to
does
pick
only
your
take
poison.
one time.
You still have to pick your poison. Cause I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I use the word.
Yeah.
I use it. If I seen Chad walking, like if I'm comfortable with him, I'm like, what's up, man? Dap him up and keep on walking. I'm not gonna sugarcoat and lie to y'all and say like I don't use the word because I do use the word.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you just have to pick your poison. I don't just casually say the word, but like if I'm comfortable with you, like I use the word.
And I don't think we're ever gonna get to a point like in our society where we're gonna actually have, yes, it's right or no, it's
Right.
wrong.
And
So
even
I
if we
think we
do,
just gotta
not
figure out
everyone's
how.
gonna listen to it.
Right, that's why I'm
Right.
saying we're never gonna get to that point because
it's
everyone's
tough.
entitled to their opinion. I think we just have to have the conversation on who can use the word and who cannot, and I feel like it has to be consistent. Like
For
it
sure.
can't be fluctuated, the line can't be blurred. I just think we just gotta get to a point where we're appropriately using the term once we figure out why we use it.
There's a theory in feminist philosophy. I can't remember the names, but essentially it says either the thought precedes the impact or the impact precedes the thought. And that essentially says that you approach it from a place of local, where you do it in your communities first, you change it around yourself, or you approach it from a place of legislature, where you try and attack the entire entity. And I think everyone picks a side unknowingly or knowingly, and they work at it until eventually we get to the same place.
Right. Yeah.
Who are you?
That was
So
Like
good.
that- that's
That was a
really
great
good
way to
advice.
end.
I
Like, but I realized that we
Who are
never
you?
practiced.
Oh, we never showed you our ending. Okay, so essentially it's just around in a circle and up. But it's like, right.
Yeah.
Right,
But we
you
time
gotta-
it together because it's
Right.
all of us.
So I'm gonna be like, thank you for joining us at the table. Literally, that's the
All right.
pace we
I think I
speak.
got it.
All right.
All right.
Thank you everyone for joining us at the table.
Get it. That was awesome.
Thank you.